Hey guys, what's going on today? Welcome back to another video on my channel. We're trying to get consistent again, so I'm looking forward to continuing to post at a consistent rate. Today's video is one of my favorite topics to talk about in the whole world. If you've known me, even for the past few years, you know how deluded I am when it comes to this topic. Connor McDavid to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I want to come to the team a lot, obviously, for obvious reasons. And today we're going to talk about why it might be somewhat feasible. Yeah, you heard that right. Even after this Kirill Kaprizov $17 million contract, somehow the Leafs might still be able to afford Connor McDavid next season if he chooses to go there. With the cap rising and with a couple outgoings of the Leafs, for example, players who are expiring contracts, think of David Kampf, Calle Yarncroke, even guys like Scott Laughton, etc., 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 the Leafs would have over $20 million in cap space next season. Now, Connor McDavid would take up a huge chunk of that, maybe 20. But the point is, they could actually make it happen. And I've seen this picture on Twitter surfacing about a potential lineup they might have for next season if they get Connor McDavid and how they would make it work. So let's take a look at it real quick. I'll move over to the right here so you can see over here on the left, I'm going to put up the picture of the forward lines with Connor McDavid. The forward is what we have to prioritize here. The defense actually stays the same and the goaltending. Those two are kind of unchanged, but both the tendies and the defensemen locked up pretty long term. So for the forwards, it's more significant when it comes to certain players expiring, certain players having to move around the lineup, this and that. So let's take a look at it. A couple key points to mention here. So for one, look how great this lineup looks. Yes, I know, but this person on Twitter has Connor McDavid signing for just $15 million for a 7-year deal. Is that realistic? Honestly, no. Even if he takes a hometown discount, he probably a discount for Connor McDavid is probably $16-17 million. But the point is, he might not be taking a low contract like that at this point. Given what Kaprizov just signed for, he's probably asked for upwards of $18 million. It's also important to note that they have Matias Maccelli signing a 3-year deal at $4 million per year. Realistically, that could maybe happen. He's on less than that right now. He's on his last year of his RFA deal. So Leafs have the rights over him, as well as, he's on his last year in a prove-it deal. But if he has an amazing season this season, there's every chance he might be asking for $5-6+ million, given the way the market is looking right now. So for that reason, we don't know if it's going to be realistic or not. But let's take a look at the lineup anyways. A first line of Matias Maccelli, Connor McDavid, William Nylander, and a second line including Matthew Knies, Austin Matthews, Max Domi, John Tavares in the third line. I mean, this lineup looks ridiculous, It goes to show how much the depth of the Leafs has changed, and also goes to show the new capabilities of the NHL cap system going up finally. The Leafs, I'm a Leafs fan, and when it comes down to it, we've been struggling with cap issues for the longest time. It's mainly because a main portion of our cap space has been taken up by our core 4, as well as Morgan Riley. So really our core 5 of salary cap, eaters. And even with Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, even guys like Matthew Knies, Morgan Riley making a ton of money in this team, it still looks pretty good. Dakota Joshua is still there. His $3.25 million cap hit. Steven Lorentz is still there, a fan favorite here in Toronto. Nicolas Waugh still there, obviously fresh off the trade from Mitch Marner. This team looks deep, and it also looks pretty potent up top. You add McDavid, Matthews, and Nylander in a top 6. I mean, what else could you ask for at that point? So now look at the lineup. Let's think about it. Would this realistically happen? Honestly, I have the biggest gut feeling that it's going to be no. I think McDavid is probably going to stay in the Oilers. What I will say is that I really am such a fan of that player. I think everyone in the league is, especially to watch. He's so exciting to watch. Given that he's from Toronto, given that he's a homeborn kid, well, he's not a kid anymore, but the point is, he's from Toronto. He's always the pictures you see of him as a kid with the jersey on, the Leafs jersey. It's like a match made in heaven, kind of, but I think as also me speaking as a Leafs fan, not every player gets the dream of playing for their hometown team. So obviously, I'm sure he would love to, but at the right parameters, at the right capacity, the right scenario. Is it the right scenario for him? I don't know. Let's think about it. If we compare the Leafs and the Edmonton Oilers for their future situation going forward, and the roster I just showed you, when it comes to, you see Matthews still there, Nylander still there, Matthew Knies still there, the whole defense and goaltending core still there, and a lot of great depth forwards. Are the Oilers really better than that? Leon Draisaitl is a true elite number 1 center and number 1 winger. If he played with McDavid, he can be a Rocket Richard winner every season. He can be a MVP level player. After that, the drop-off is rather significant. You look at guys like Zach Hyman, who's, I know Zach Hyman very well as a Leafs fan. He's a very, very good player. He's got even better since going to Edmonton. You look at guys like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, pretty good player, can't complain. He'd come off a couple of seasons ago with 100 points. I mean, I don't know if he's going to do that again, but very, very talented player. Their defense is just, I don't know, like Evan Bouchard. Do you trust Evan Bouchard on that huge contract? Do you trust Darnell Nurse on that huge contract? Matthias Ekholm's not getting any younger. The goaltending is always been an issue, and it's still an issue no matter what they do, unless they make a drastic change to that goaltending. I don't know if that Oilers team is really better without McDavid than the Leafs team is, if that makes sense. Like, you add McDavid to this Leafs team that I just showed you on the screen, compared it to him on that Oilers team. Yes, I know the Oilers team made the Cup final 2 years in a row, but let's not lie and say that McDavid had nothing to do with that. He was putting up ridiculous numbers. He was putting the team on his back every single series. Him and Draisaitl. And if he was in Toronto, if he was playing with all these elite players and having genuine depth, great goaltending, and great defense on his team, maybe he can win a cup. Yes, I know. I'm talking about Toronto, and I just said win a Stanley Cup. What am I talking about? But McDavid came so close with the Edmonton Oilers team that in reality had no business in being a Stanley Cup final except for him and Leon Draisaitl. Let's just be honest. And if you add him to a team with Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Matthew Knies, guys who are depth players like John Tavares on the third line center. You get Easton Cowan coming up. You never know what you're going to get from Easton Cowan. You get guys like Dakota Joshua, Nicolas Waugh, Max Domi, Matthias Michelli's still there. And then you get all the defensemen that are still there. Obviously not puck producers, or, offense producers, I should say. But very, very solid defensemen. And then you get very good goaltending, a great tandem. Why would they not be a better team than the Oilers? Maybe I'm biased and maybe I'm just a Toronto Maple Leafs fan talking, but why are they not better? I mean, goaltending would be better, defense would be arguably better, and the offense would just realistically be better. You get McDavid and you get Matthews, Nylander, Knies, Tavares, etc. There's just more depth and more scoring options than there is in the Oilers. They're really almost better in every facet of the game. Now, this is assuming that I can actually keep all these players. There's no guarantee this would actually happen. Maybe they lose Michelli. Maybe they lose, Domi, trade him. Maybe they have to trade, even John Tavares, who's on a great contract, but maybe they need to move up $4 million in cap space. Whatever they have to do, is Connor McDavid. You have to do it. There's also other fans, even some fans in Toronto that I've seen saying like, oh, McDavid wants $18+ million. Why do you want him on this team? We've already had these cap situations in the past when we had Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Morgan Rielly. Guys, are you forgetting this is Connor McDavid? Like, this is the best player, maybe the most talented player we've ever seen in this league. He's not just some run-of-the-mill player. He's an unbelievable player. He's entering his, you could probably say he's in his prime now, but really he has a good amount more years in his prime. Even if you sign him to a 7-year contract, an 8-year contract even, he is still going to be an elite player by the end of that contract. It's a no-brainer. If you get the opportunity to sign Connor McDavid to your team, you do it. It's the same thing with Kirill Kaprizov for the Minnesota Wild. People say they overpaid for him, but let's be honest. Minnesota Wild without Kaprizov are a completely different team and honestly a far worse team. If you get the opportunity to have a player like that on your team, you better keep him. Connor McDavid to the Leafs, for me, would be a dream. I've been such a fan of his for the longest time, obviously, and he's from Toronto. It'd just be amazing. Let me know down below if I'm delusional, as every other Leafs fan seems to be, including myself. Let me know if this is a complete lie, if there's no way it's going to ever happen. Let me know what you think about that projected lineup, by the way. What would you change? Do you think other players are going to be asking for more or less money than what they see in that graphic? I don't know. This is just an interesting conversation starter I see on Twitter, and I was really intrigued by it. So I wanted to bring up to you guys. Let me know what you think down below. I really appreciate everyone for watching the videos. The support lately has been really good, and I really appreciate that. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.